Minutes, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. At this time, if the public would like to call in or make a public comment, what number can they call on?
The number is 610-829-6605, and the conference ID is 776149.
And if they call in, we'll just let them break in.
We'll continue to move forward, and if there are any public comments, we'll stop for those. In our treasurer's report, Ron, did you want to take this?
Yeah, I have it
invoices.
here. You should see the report as of March 26, 2020. The general fund, you'll see our total fund balance of $1,237,242.64.
All right.
Then if you come down in our little box.
Ron, if I could stop you there, just for the sake of keeping you and getting to the RKL, if we could just address the invoices that need to be paid. Everyone has the requisite information otherwise.
Sounds good. Good.
In your packet, there were invoices for payment. We had 3 invoices from King Spry totaling $3,025.09. One invoice from Watt Teeter totaling $12,084.50. 2 invoices from Riley and Company, who we'll be hearing from in a little bit. There are auditors for $5,257.77, and 1 invoice from Alfred Benish and Company for $16,141.65, all invoices totaling $36,509.01.
Are there any questions on any of the invoices in our packet? Hearing none, I'd like to entertain a motion to pay these invoices.
So moved.
I'll make the motion for second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 I have a procedural question. Do we have to motion to accept the treasurer's report or no? Do we have to?
No,
We included it for information
Okay,
purposes
thank
only.
you.
We tried to pare down the agenda as much as possible.
Just want to do what's
all right.
right.
Deborah, we would like your presentation on the draft audit report.
Thank you very much. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. My name's Debbie Borger. I am representing Riley and Company, and Jay Grabelny is also on the call, Skype, whatever it is. And he has worked on the audit this year with me. He's going to present financial statements. But what we're going to do first is going to go talk to you about the auditor's report and just talk a little bit about 2019 to you, because we know that this year is the first year that county staff have been doing the bookkeeping, record keeping for the authority. And they've done a good job. The transition between your own accounting person and the county offices went well from what we could see. So I think we were happy when we started the audit and with the information that we received and the cooperation that we've received. So what I want to do first is go discuss briefly the independent auditor's report. For those of you who have copies of the audit packet and are following along through that, the auditor's report is on page 3 of that packet. And of course, the auditor's report is what you guys pay us for. and it's really what you're most concerned about. There's a lot of other information in the audit packet, but that is something that has been primarily generated by your people and through information that we've obtained from them. But the independent auditor's report tells you what our opinion is of the financial statements as presented in the packet. So on the first page of the auditor's report, basically, it identifies the financial statements that we are reporting on, and that, of course, is the authority's financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2019. Next part of the report identifies them that they are management's responsibility, which means that the authority must take responsibility for the accuracy of the numbers in the financial statements and the disclosures. We, as the auditors, are charged with obtaining an opinion, obtaining information from the authority so that we can come up with an opinion on the accuracy of the financials. On page 4, the next page, is the paragraph that you're most concerned about, of course, is the opinions paragraph. And our opinion, as stated in that paragraph, is that the financial statements presented in the packet that have been provided to you present fairly the financial position and results of operations of the authority. And of course, that is the opinion that you want to have. So what I'll do now is I'll hand this off to Jay, who will go through the numbers on the financials, and he will give you a good overview of 2019. Then we will come back to me and I'll talk about some other required reports that are also included in that packet, and we'll go from there. So Jay, it's you now.
Okay, good morning. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to go through pretty quickly to keep this short. If I'm going too quick or if you have questions, please feel free to stop me. We're going to start with Exhibit A, which is the statement of net position. This is for the entity as a whole, and it's on the full accrual basis. So our first section is our current assets, which we have about 1.3 million, which are primarily cash and cash equivalents. Our non-current assets are our notes receivable, which we have broken down between restricted and unrestricted. The restricted are related to the CIPP funds that were loaned out. They're classified as a restricted note receivable. Scrolling down, then we have our capital assets, which we have construction in progress, and the bridge is already in place. And our accumulated depreciation, so our total capital assets at year end were just about $11 million. Our liabilities, then we have some accounts payable, and then we have the due to primary government, which is related to those CIPP funds that may end up being due back to the county. Our net position, then we have net investment in capital assets and unrestricted, so our total net position at year end was just over $12 million. Our next statement then is Exhibit B, the statement of activities. It's broken down into 3 basic functions or programs. We have our general government, then our public works, highways, and streets, which is the P3 bridge project. Most of our expenses there are capitalized, but what you're seeing as expenses there are some insurance costs that were not capitalized, and also the depreciation on the bridges that are already in service. And then going across, we have the capital grants and contributions, which were our P3 contributions of $2.4 million. Community development is our grant activity. So 2019, we had a $500,000 grant to St. Luke's that passed through. And then there was also a $40,000 grant to Bedco. Going down then under general revenues, we have hospital authority funds for the funds that were given to the GPA from the hospital authority account that was closed. So overall for 2019, we had a total change in that position of just over $2 million. Our next statement then is Exhibit C. This is the governmental funds. We have our general fund and our capital projects. This is on the modified accrual basis. So for 2008, or for 2019 rather, the only modification there that's different from the full accrual is that there are no fixed assets shown on the governmental funds. So we have the same for cash and notes receivable. Liabilities are same, the accounts payable and the due back to primary government. So again, really the only change here is that we don't show the capital assets on the fund statement. Exhibit D then, this reconciles our total governmental funds from Exhibit C to the total net position from our governmental activities, Exhibit A. Exhibit E then, next statement, this is our revenues and expenses for the funds. So just going down again, we had $500,000 of grant revenue. We also have the hospital authority funds that show up as revenue on the general fund. On the capital projects fund, the only revenue was the P3 revenue. Under expenditures, again, then our community development expenses are the 2 grants that went out. And then you can see the breakdown on the capital projects fund of the various P3 expenses for the year. So overall, then for our 2 governmental funds, there was a net decrease in fund balance of about $43,000. Our next page then, Exhibit F, this reconciles the change in fund balance to the total change in net position. So that shows the difference there for the depreciation expense and also for capitalizing the P3 costs. After this, then we have our notes to the financial statement. I'm not going to go through them in too much detail. Actually, if you're following along, the first one that I just like to touch on is actually on page 10 of the notes. And that's the note receivable note. So that lists our notes and shows the additions and deletions or the additions and repayments for the year.
Tell us slow down.
That's on page 19 of the packet, if you're
Yep.
following along with that.
Next then, note 4 is our capital assets. So this shows the activity for the construction in progress. And as you can see there were no bridges placed in service during the year, so our additions were to construction in progress. And again, we had depreciation of expense of about $140,000. Next page then, we have our due to primary government. So that discusses the CIPP funds and, the fact that those may eventually be paid back to the county. And the second paragraph there identifies that there were funds that were paid back in 2019, in February 2019. So that was a total of about $900,000. So that's where we have that disclosed. Note 7, the hospital authority funds, that's just a little description there of the monies that came in from the hospital authority account that was closed. Note 8 discusses the disputed legal fees and the settlement that was reached and paid out in 2019. And then the last 2 notes will be on page 21 and 22 of the PDF. It's the conduit debt obligations. So I would just like to thank Sarah. She did a really good job of getting the confirmations out and getting the information back to us. So this was always kind of a pain to put together, but that went really, really smoothly this year. So I appreciate her assistance with that. So that's the current conduit debt that's outstanding. And then on page 23 of the PDF is where we have our note about the P3 project. So we did make some changes to this note this year just to identify where we felt the project standed as of December 31st, 2019. So if there's any feedback there, we think we updated that accurately, but obviously you guys know more than we do. So that's really the financial statements in a pretty quick review here. So if there's any questions, please let me know. If not, then I'm going to throw it back to Debbie.
All right, no questions? So hearing no questions, I will move on to some of the other reports in that packet. The report that follows the financial statements is the draft public notice that goes in the newspaper. And it's really based on everything that Jay just talked to you about in the financial statements, a summary of it. So we're not going to go over that in any detail. The draft DCED report provides information to DCED for the authority. Again, it's all information that's included in the financial statements anyway, and plus like some information about the officers, et cetera, of the authority. So that's not something that we're really going to go into detail unless someone has a question on it.
No, no question.
All right, the next item is the communication with the governing body letter. This is a required letter that we have to issue with every audit that we perform. And basically, it provides the board with information regarding our responsibilities and accounting and certain aspects of the accounting practices of the authority, which is that part of it's on page 41. There really wasn't anything new this year in relation to accounting procedures, so we didn't identify anything different. This report is pretty much the way it's been historically for you guys. And being that we had no problems with the transition to the county office for doing the accounting, we really didn't have any recommendations to make in this letter. So that's a positive for you guys. The next report is the internal control report. And that's also a required report that we must issue. And the idea of the internal control report is to identify weaknesses in internal control so that management and the board are able to address them. We reviewed, we performed our standard procedures on internal control with Mary Alice and also the staff in the GPA office or at your DCED office. And we didn't find any material weaknesses in the internal control. So that's really what this letter says. So that's also a good thing for you. Does anybody have any questions for me on these two documents?
Debbie, just one comment on page 41 of the letter. It's directed to the Board of Supervisors. It should be Board of Directors.
Yes, we noticed that there are, that supervisors is in there in a couple of places. That will be corrected in the final. Anything else? Then the last document
All right,
is
Debbie,
the
it
draft
might be helpful
management
to everyone.
representation letter.
Debbie, what,
This
Debbie?
letter
Debbie.
is one that
Debbie,
management provides to us.
Debbie,
And
Debbie.
there's a
Debbie, hold on, there's a comment.
dated hard copy that you guys have that we will ask Mary Alice to sign because she's been the person who has really answered 90% of the questions that we've had and provided us with the
anybody
information.
know what page he's on?
And
49.
one of the
49.
one of the officers of the board, either the chairman or the treasurer or whomever the board designates to fulfill that responsibility. But the basic idea of this letter is that you guys are saying to us, you're confirming the information that has been provided to us, and that you've answered all the questions that we have asked, and answered them honestly and completely, and to the best of your knowledge, you're not aware of anything that's been left out, essentially. So this letter certainly has a lot of verbiage in it that is required by our profession. So if there are any questions on it, we'll be happy to answer it. But the basic idea is what I just told you in, I don't know, a couple of sentences. So this gets signed by those people
Yeah,
based on
we've got it.
you guys approving the financial statements at today's meeting.
There's just no stopping her.
Debbie,
Yes.
We've got it.
So you're saying that, are you telling me that everything's signed and that we're a go? Is that what you're saying?
No, there
Okay.
was a question earlier, we figured it out.
It would be helpful, dramatically helpful if we knew what pages you were on. But now that we've reached the end of the document, it's no longer an issue. As far as this being signed, we will,
So I think what we need to do here today is a motion to approve this draft audit report, subject to some non-material revisions, that we can finalize this and direct staff to get the appropriate signatures.
That's fine. Something that I should let you know too is we will be adding a paragraph to the subsequent events disclosure relating to the COVID-19 pandemic and potential economic fallout from that. It's a pretty basic disclosure that we're putting in every financial statement that we have issued since about, I don't know, mid-March.
all right, I think we're all shaking our heads here, but I have to ask this, how does that affect our audit report? We are not
it's from last
essentially affected in that manner by COVID.
Well, essentially, I don't know that anybody knows how you're going to be affected by it. The authorities' operating revenues, the fees, et cetera, that you obtain from financing, those could be impacted by projects that don't come to you because of planned projects that will be not happening due to the COVID-19.
Hey, Debbie, maybe I'm a little confused, but this is the draft audit for 2019.
Correct?
Why do we need something about that's happening in 2020?
There was no COVID in the United States in 2019.
It's because it's a subsequent event that could materially impact your finances going forward. So
Okay,
there's no adjustment to the statement. It's a matter of a paragraph that gets added to the note. That's a subsequent event note saying that this has occurred subsequent to the.
Okay, it seems
31st.
perfectly pointless to me, but it seems like something that would be part of the 2020 audit, but all
I
things
heard
not
what
being
she's
equal,
saying.
that's whatever. Like to entertain a motion to accept this draft report?
Second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, and as far as, are there any opposed? Hearing none, it is adopted, and we will get the requisite signatures to move this forward.
Okay, and we will be in touch with Mary Alice to do our, again, subsequent period reviews procedures that we have to do before we can finalize your financials. But we will work on that, and we will expect to receive the signed letter, and you can certainly send that via email. That would be fine. If is there anything else that you would like to talk to us about? If not, we'll go.
All right, well, thank you very much. Is there any other questions? All right, we are present, I'm sorry? I thought somebody had something. As we are now confirmed to be streaming, if there are any public comments, please call into this number.
610-829-6605. And the conference ID is 776149.
All right. Our next meeting, we will continue to move forward. If anyone does call, we will stop at that point. Our next meeting is intended to be May 5th at 8:15 in the morning. I'd like to thank everyone for their patience, and certainly Ron for hanging in there with us through this all here.
Thanks, Charles. No problem.
I'll give it a moment or two, and if anyone calls, we will go from there. Is there any staff report at this time?
Glendon Hotel is kind of on hold right now.
And just as a element for those members that didn't hear this earlier, we are continuing to see construction along the way. You did, did you pass the report? The report, okay, as you do see in the report from Kuklinski's, from Benish, they are continuing to do work. In a side note, just to take up time while we await any public comment, PennDOT did come out to Bridge 143, which is the triple arch bridge that we restored. It had arch liners done to it. PennDOT did come out and approved the construction, did say that it was a sufficient bridge to be opened. There was a walkthrough yesterday to accept that bridge. There are a couple of minor items that need to be addressed, including the staining to be finished. But while PennDOT was out there, seemingly, they inspected one of their own state bridges, which was part of our detour, and they closed that down. So the bridge and the detour were both closed down for a short period. We did open our Bridge 143 early, or at least before the final acceptance walkthrough, so that citizens could make their way through. But this is just one of those elements that you can only do in Pennsylvania during COVID. A 5-minute period having elapsed, there no public comment. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you all for your participation today, and thank you for helping us get this done. Stay healthy and stay positive.
Thank you. Stay healthy, everybody.
You too. Bye.
Thank you.
I think so. Well, so Tina, I had emailed,
I don't know when we go.
I had emailed Tina, and I emailed her at 9:04. What time did we officially start? 'Cause I'm running out.
She didn't refresh her browser. I had her refresh the browser. I was texting with the
Yeah, and then
director of
she
IT.
said it was started working, so I don't know when it actually.
Say 9:04 if that's what you.
So,
We are still being.
We're still recording.
yeah,
Still on.
so from here on out, if you
Just
guys
put it on
use the
microphone.
room in this manner again for next meeting, make sure you use this computer.
Hold
Yep.
on. In the next
Yeah,
meeting,
it-
they'll take care of it. This is not our responsibility.
Bob did not make that clear.
So-
I know, they did.
So, like, we reached out to them last week,
I know.
explained what we were
It's
doing.
just all things not needed. And, there'll be a moment for which, when we don't have to maintain social distancing, that I may check with you.
Me?
You, because there was an easy way most technically
Advanced way to do it.
anything more.
So, I have
Should've
the,
been another way. We'd have been fine.
I have the,
Well,
ticket number 2, so I'm
how
gonna
would,
deal with
how
that.
would we handle public comment?
We would have given, we would have streamed like a normal meeting. People would have called in under the normal circumstances. At which time, public comment, at the beginning of the meeting, we would have announced my cell phone. And then I could handle it, just running it through there, putting the cell phone up to the thing. Very low tech, but you know what it does?
It works.
So,
Well, the other thing Bob expressed, he said that when you call in, there's a maximum number of people that can call in on that number. I don't know what that number is, though. When he says there's a max.
Yeah, we would have been able to get everyone, but you know, we would have been able to get a quorum. That's all we needed. Once one person called in.
But we had a quorum with this, the larger issue was
We didn't have that start for 20, well, almost 30 minutes. By the time the meeting would have been over.
fair enough. The larger issue was the recording.
The larger issue was that we tried to go the most technologically advanced way. If we didn't have him coming up here futzing with the computer, he would have just been able to go with the recorder, which he did, pretty much right after. He just had the same recording.
I guess I just don't understand why both Tony's
so basically, what
If you want to get things, if you want to make things work.
Fair enough. No.
You know, like,
When are the,
So,
this has nothing to do
alright,
with.
so basically.
I know.
I need you guys.
Yep, you just have to sign.
I know that there's.
That'll be the settlement.
Until like September,
Hotel
right?
tax
Yeah.
opens
So,
this.
so I could just like get,
Which you could. I don't know how much money.
So do you want to sign the management representation letter on behalf of the GPA?
Whatever it takes, so.
And then Mary Alice has to sign it.
So I don't have to, you know, that also.
Start accumulating all the like what date? Because like casinos just shut down.
Clear about this now.
So the money that you gave last year was from that calendar year or was from previous calendar? Because the grants would have been accumulated last year to disperse this year or no?
well, I was thinking like 7 months.
So.
All right. That's what I'm asking about the timeline.
So, yes, that's what I try to do with.
Okay, next is the meeting minutes.
I try not to
I'll make the
allocate
correction
any
for
money
your
to
signature
the
to the secretary.
until the following.
Right. So the 2019 money should be the things that we're paying out this year, which should be okay. It would be next
That
year,
is
but-
not how we typically operate.
Okay.
And,
Well, what I'll do is I'll go
look
from
at
left
it
to right.
with.
Whichever way works for you.
So, what we did
I'll do
last
that.
year, we had the, Parks Plus PDS.
Yep.
So we had been accumulating
Well, what I also have to do
because
is
that money was in the bank.
Mhm.
so that
Goes
goes
on
on
the fund.
from my, what the person did is it painted, right
Hey,
at
look,
the top of.
my signature on top of my signature.
Oh, I'm gonna.
Is that what
Thank
you're
you.
It's good that I agree with myself that we should get it.
Flaking away.
That is all.
Do you know how many of those things that they were
I
down
do.
here that I approved and signed for?
And like,
But we know the timeline.
Yeah,
all that.
yeah, yeah.
I don't know, I gotta. Like, I don't know. Impact that yet, but like, that is definitely.
So you're saying to get like a.
Some of these supported funds that are coming from all these entities, when you go to the
Hey,
account,
can you
is
make sure that they
specific
stop
to
recording?
that your department, you know, like.
It's still on, it's still green?
It's still green, I don't
green.
know what that means.
That role,
They gotta get that light fixed before you
that
can
money
shoot.
goes to
your age.
Yes, there are, the little Christmas ball.
Yeah, you
That's
pay
all
by
it's
the
in there,
20.
guarantee it's one of those little turn-in.
No, if it's just one of those,
From,
there's at least two of them. That's the long lamp, that's about this long, that has multiple filament pieces in there, and those are about $22.
$22.
And
Oh
then
my
the SIP is
God.
I
right
don't know how
here.
much it is. so far.
SIP is table games revenue.
God.
All right, my brother.
So if the casino's not open,
Hey, you gotta come over to my house, give me a shed in the back and I wanna get it wired.
Okay.
I have the electrical box right here for the whole.
But you have to change some of the, like, if the funds are limited, which
I don't even know.
Well, you're gonna break it out.
But
I
Like
agree
a-
with Steve.
That's what I'm thinking, I'm just gonna put
Yeah,
plugs in
I
the
don't know, like,
that's
I mean,
it.
if the casino shut
I might put sheet rock over the wall.
Yeah.
I mean, it may become like a local schoolhouse after a long time, but it's one step at a time, you know?
you know, that,
Just use armor
the
cable.
casino being shut down, that is a
No, no.
significant
Rodents from eating.
funding
Okay.
source to,
Cause the new stuff
You
is
know what?
soy-based stuff.
You know what BX cable was originally
you know,
stands for?
that's.
That's Bronx cable. It's there to keep rats from chewing
Right,
electrical
wires.
That's what Bronx cable is.
what about
BX.
the hotels when they open?
I know the new
Those
cables
were
in cars
hotel status.
have soy as a covering, and mice are eating it.
That doesn't sound good.
They have soy-based insulation.
How are you holding up